House rules in Warhammer 40k are sometimes responsible for some of the silliest and most incomprehensible rules in the game, even more so in some cases than the core rules themselves. And that goes especially for a rule that's being adopted by more and more tournament series. So let's talk about the silliest house rule in Tournament 40k, the WTC Ruin rule. Now, this rule has been a mechanic at the World Team Championship for the last couple of years, for good or ill. For those who don't know, the World Team Championship is a competition between teams from various countries of Warhammer 40k to try to prove which country is the best in 40k. Although, generally speaking, it doesn't have great coverage and ends up editing the core 40k rules so much that it doesn't actually end up really being representative of regular games. This rule is a good example of that. One common tactic in Warhammer 40,000, if you have a building with solid walls, is to position your models such that your opponent cannot engage them without passing all the way through the wall, because your engage range would stop somewhere within the wall where their model can't be placed. This rule is intended to stop that. Essentially, if your opponent is attempting to prevent you from completing a charge by using the intervening wall, as long as your unit has some ability to move through the wall, you can still complete your charge despite not being in engagement range. Essentially, your models will phase partially into the wall and exist there in this nebulous state until the pile in and consolidate moves, which could similarly be prevented. The rule is so complex and conceptual that it actually literally requires that you call a referee or tournament organizer over to your table before actually executing the maneuver, which I think is a pretty good example of a red flag and a rule that you maybe should not include in your very competitive system. The hypocrisy of this rule is also sort of compounded by the love of WTC and other tournament systems for this rule that they have spelled out in their movements phase clarifications number 2, where no abstractions regarding the laws of physics can be applied when a model is placed. I don't know what this rule is supposed to be intending, but I have to imagine that a model's base phasing halfway through a solid object is some sort of law of physics abstraction. The reason that we're talking about this is that the rule was recently adopted by Frontline Gaming for the upcoming Las Vegas Open, so watch out for that. The interaction that the rule is supposed to prevent can be toxic in some situations, but can be easily rectified by changing the type of terrain available at the event. You just put doorways and windows in the wall that most models can pass through. In reality, this method of screening out charges using intervening terrain is actually, sort of tactically interesting and a core mechanic to Warhammer 40,000. It's just using the mechanics that are in the core rules and trying to build house rules to prevent mechanics that exist within the game itself seems kind of counter to making a competition that's supposed to be representative of skill using that rule system. But I don't know, that's just my opinion. I'd be interested to hear what you think as well.